everyone, today we delve into the tragic and long unsolved case of Christopher Denoyer, a teenager from Salinas, California. So this case took a chilling turn in 1998, but a couple renovating their home made a shocking discovery. They discovered a human remains that belonged to Christopher Denoyer, who had been missing since 1984. The revelation brought a wave of renewed investigations, unraveling a story that had been buried for over a decade. Christopher Allen Denoyer was born on 26 December 1964. At the time of his disappearance in 1984, he was only 16 years old. So Chris lived on Navajo Drive in Salinas, California, with his mother, Dale Denoyer, his stepfather, Jackson Villarta, and his half-sister, Cherry Tinsley. Chris was a student at Westwood High School, where he was known as a friendly nature and active involvement in sports. So his sudden disappearance was a shock for all his family and friends. After Chris Denoyer went missing, his mother never stopped searching for him, despite the initial response of the police considering Chris a runaway and refusing to file a report. In Chris Denoyer murder case was Jackson Villarta, the victim's stepfather. Jackson was the husband of Chris' mother, Dale Villarta, and at the time of the murder in 1984, Jackson was a small man compared to Chris, who was an athlete and a tall teenager. Jackson lived with Chris, his wife Dale Villarta, and his sister Cherry in their home in Salinas, California. Cherry told police that Jackson was extremely strict with Chris and that Chris did not always get along with him or his mother. Jackson worked as laborer and was able to hide Chris' body under the kitchen floor of their home for over a decade before it was discovered in 1998. Jackson was eventually arrested, tried and convicted of second-degree murder for killing Chris.
On December 26, 1967, Chris Denoyer was born to Dale and Mike Denoyer. His early life was marked by the eventual divorce of his parents, after which his mother remarried Jackson Carraon Villarta. This remarriage significantly affected Chris' life, as his new stepfather's behavior would later become central to the tragic events that unfolded. On December 1982, at the age of 15, Chris moved from his father's camp in Southern California to live with his mother Dale and stepfather Villarta in Salinas. This move was a significant change for Chris, bringing him into a household where he would soon experience tension and conflict, particularly with Villarta. On June 1983, the family relocated to 248 Navajo Drive in Salinas. Financial difficulties become apparent as Dale struggled to receive child support from her ex-husbands. This financial strain created friction between Dale and Villarta. As a 17-year-old already tense household environment, Villarta's possessiveness and distrust of Chris and his sister Cherry added to the household stress. In an attempt to teach responsibility, Villarta brings home 2 dogs for Chris and Cherry. But between Thanksgiving and December 7, 1983, tragedy strikes. One dog dies and the other becomes very ill, possibly due to poisoning. Cherry sees what appears to be rodent poison in the dog food. Dale finds a 3-ounce container of copper poison near the dog food dish. Villarta, who had access to the poison stored in the log carrier, becomes a suspect in this accident. The poisoning suggested malicious intent and foreshadowed further tragic events, indicating a hostile environment in the house. In the earlier of January 1984, Chris brings home a motorcycle he purchased without permission. Dale and Villarta return it, further upsetting Chris. In the second week of January, Villarta reaches his breaking point. He tells Dale he's fed up with Chris and Cherry, ominously, stating, "If you don't get these kids out of here, I can't stand anymore." On 13 January 1984, Chris disappears. He fails to show up for a plane double date with his girlfriend Carlota. 5 days later, on 18 January, a suspicious mailgram reportedly from Chris is sent to Dale, charged to Villarta's phone number. In the months that follow, Dale and others notice a strong smell of ruin in the house. Villarta offers to sell his Colt Fighter revolver at a greatly reduced price. Dale, desperate for answers, contacts a missing children's organization and files a missing person report on 13 October 1988. Years pass. Dale continues her childless search for Chris throughout the 1980s. In September 1996, she hires a private investigator, but it's not until January 1998 that a breakthrough occurs. The new owners of 248 Navajo Drive discover human remains in the crawl space under the house. Police recover Chris remains and interview Villarta, seizing a Colt fighter revolver from his residence. The wheels of justice begin to turn. On 15 May 1998, Villarta is charged with murder. After a first trial ends in a mistrial, a second jury trial begins on 31st January 2000. After just 1 day of deliberations, the jury finds Villarta guilty of second-degree murder with a weapons enhancements. This case concludes on 4th April 2000 when Jackson Carraon Villarta is sentenced to 70 years to life in prison for the murder of his stepson, Christopher Denoyer.
Christopher Denoyer has disappeared in January 1984, and his family initially believed he had run away after receiving a telegram allegedly from Chris stating that he had moved to Los Angeles. This has led the police to drop the investigation at the time. However, in January 1998, after 40 years Chris has reported missing, Chris' remains were discovered by a couple renovating their home in Salinas, California. His body was found in the crawl space under the kitchen where the witness stated he had found a pair of shoes sticking out of the dirt with the toes pointing upward. After confirming the shoes were attached to the skeleton, the witness has called the police. Police officer from Salinas Department responded to the call. After confirming that the bones were human, the area of the house was declared as the crime scene. The investigator then called in Dr. Alison Galloway, the anthropologist at University of California, to assist the investigation on the human remains. She found out that the skeleton is complete and undisturbed by any animals. According to Dr. Alison Galloway, the initial examination at the crime scene was observed that the bones were likely a male, and the bones had been there for a number of years. She also stated that there was no odor, no grease, and no soft tissues left on the bone. She said that it usually takes about 5 years minimum, and it can go up to 50 years. They also found decomposed jeans and underwear, suggested that the victim had been fully clothed at the time of death and burial. Dr. Alison Galloway also found a 38 caliber bullet that leads to homicide case. As they searched the area around the body, they found a set of keys and also a cigarette lighter. The remains were sent to University of California Santa Cruz Anthropology Lab for the analysis. Measurement of the bone confirmed the remains were an adolescent male of European descent. The victim was approximately 5 feet inches tall. Dr. Alison Galloway discovered 2 gunshot holes in the victim's skull and 1 entry wound at the victim's back indicated the victim had been shot. Dr. Kevin Landon performed the analysis of Chris' dental record. He compared the x-rays of Chris' record with the victim's dental remains. He found a retainer at lower jaw extending from his left canal to his right canal tooth. It was a standard type of retainer when the victim was still alive. Dr. Landon found a positive match of victim's remain dental with Christopher. He also stated that Chris was murdered immediately before he was reported missing due to his wisdom teeth had not developed any further. During the interview with Chris' girlfriend, Carlota Davis, she stated that Chris did not have a good relationship with his stepfather as they constantly fought with each other. Chris' sister told them that her parents had a pet snake that likely died somewhere around the properties. Her answer only made the authorities more suspicious. Furthermore, on the day Chris was missing, Chris' mother was at work. Her husband was the one who told her that Chris was run away. He seemed remarkably calm when the police told him the truth that Chris had actually been murdered and buried underneath the family home. Finally, police accused Jackson of killing Chris and disposing his body in the crawl space, but he denied it with the same ambivalence that he did consistently show during the hours long of interview. Meanwhile, the other investigators were at the family's home executing a search warrant in the hopes of finding any evidence related to Chris' death. The police found a revolver and ammunition and the type of gun and bullets that matched the bullet found at the Chris gravesite.
The bullets matched.
In the case of people against Villarta, a variety of forensic methods were employed to gather and analyze evidence, providing crucial information that led to the conviction of Jackson Carraon Villarta. The forensic techniques used include the first one, ballistic analysis. A provider revolver found in the defendant's residence was central to the case. Scott Armstrong, a criminalist with the California Department of Justice, examined this firearm. He performed test firing and compared the resulting bullets to those recovered from the gravesite. Armstrong focused on the general characteristics and unique markings of the bullets, finding several points of comparison that led him to conclude that the Colt Python had fired the bullet found in the gravesite. His findings were corroborated by two other criminalists from the Department of Justice. Then, the second technique is firearms examination. John Woodruff, a firearm examiner from the United States Department of the Treasury, also conducted an examination of the bullets. He compared the number of groups and microscopic evidence between the test bullet from the Colt Python and the bullet recovered from the gravesite. Although Woodruff acknowledged the limitation of conclusively matching the bullet to the gun, his testimony supported the possibility that the Colt Python was used in the crime.
Dr. Galloway
The
looked for any
technique used in this
peculiarities
case
on the
is
bump.
dental records and anthropology. The identification of the body found in the crawl space was
She
a
discovered
critical
two
step
gunshot
in the
holes in the victim's skull.
investigation. Dental records were used to confirm that the remains were those of Chris Denoyer. Alison Galloway, a professor of anthropology at the University of Santa Cruz, played a vital role in examining the remains. Galloway collected and analyzed the skeleton, which was virtually complete. The analysis revealed several trauma, including shattered skull, knocked out teeth, and multiple gunshot wounds, which were consistent with the injuries inflicted by the firearm. Galloway's findings helped establish the time of death as no later than 1984. Furthermore, discovery of the body was also used in this case. The discovery of Chris' body in the crawl space under the house at 248 Najabo Drive in January 1998 was a pivotal moment in the investigation. The remains were found by the new homeowner, Eric and Diana Carvajal, who were installing heat ducts. They initially thought the protruding tennis shoes were part of a practical joke until the fall order, and the subsequent police investigation revealed the truth. This discovery reignited the investigation and provided the physical evidence needed to pursue charges against Villarta.
The last part of the case review is the court judgment and punishment. The court found that the accused violated 4 penal codes, which is the first one is Penal Code Section 12022.5, which is the enhancement to the sentence for personally using a firearm during the commission of a felony. In this case, the court added 2 years sentence for Villarta use of a firearm. Second one, Penal Code Section 1203.06, which is enhancement to the sentence for a defendant with a prior felony conviction. Number 3, Penal Code Section 1202.4, $10,000 restitution fine to be imposed on Villarta, which will be used to compensate Chris' family for their losses. Lastly, Penal Code Section 1202.45, which is additional $200 restitution fine, which was stayed unless Villarta fails to comply with the term of his sentence. Villarta was sentenced to 17 years to life in state prison, which includes a 15-year term for second-degree murder and 2 years for weapons use. The court also imposed the $10,000 restitution fine and stayed the $200 fine. The use of a firearm during the commission of the offence can add an additional 10, 20 or 25 years to the sentence, depending on the circumstances of the case. In this case, the court added 2 years to the sentence for the use of a firearm. The punishment for second-degree murder in California is generally 15 years to life, but the use of a firearm can significantly increase the sentence. What is the motive of the assailant? The motive behind the crime is not explicitly stated, but several factors suggest a possible motive. First, Villarta had a history of conflict with Chris, frequently commenting that Chris was rude and disrespectful. Additionally, Villarta was very possessive of his things, installing locks on his bedroom door and closet, where he kept a Colt Python revolver and ammunition. He also had a tendency to post post-it notes on his favorite foods and became upset if Chris or Cherry ate or touched his things. Finally, Villarta had made statements to Dale's and Chris' grandmother, indicating that he was fed up with Chris and Cherry and wanted them out of the house. It is possible that Villarta's frustration and anger towards Chris ultimately led to the tragic events.